Call this meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. First item on the agenda, we'll take a look at the minutes. Do I have a motion regarding those minutes?
I move that we accept that we approve the minutes of December 2nd board meeting and December 9th special board meeting.
Any adjustments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes for December 2nd, December 9th, 2015, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That you did a fantastic job.
She's incredible.
At this time, we'd like to begin with the report to the board and student government. We have Danielle here. You want to wait and do your part later?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same.
Staff Senate, Andy Farrell. Anyone else for Staff Senate? Faculty Senate, Ian Newman.
The Faculty Senate hosted the Faculty Assembly last week. Several issues were brought up. The Senate meeting throughout the semester. They included the usual supervisory questions, of course, during the faculty senate. And the board city back to job description package. The workload issues concerned to faculty for those who are on non-9-month contract. And asked to include those. Hoping to read them when you have to position for those other contracts. The study climate survey. We've already mentioned to Dr. Shaker at the town hall meeting, and the academic standards problems that we had before, and with the voting procedures, and we have concerns about the committee and also, like to express where I looked at, I would like to let you know that we finished up and stepped down from the position of senator for ACC and have been replaced by Kurt Bates, who joined us with the senator for ACC before the the rest of his The other issue was continuation of developmental English and math. We actually have something about that.
Sure. Archie, if you would like to approach the president.
Otherwise, that is what I have to have to see.
Would you please remain here?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I guess most of you know me. I'm Archie Nestle. I teach developmental English classes here at USC. And I guess I'm just here to ask the question of the board, and you don't have to answer me tonight, and feel free to talk about it. And we're both Dev English and Dev Math are willing to provide you with additional information. But I guess I've been fielding a lot of questions from my colleagues about all the changes that are taking place and maybe some pressures that you guys might be hearing in the community at the legislative level from College America about developmental education. And as you know, we've made a lot of changes in developmental English and in developmental math these last few years that are just kind of going into effect this last semester. And I think from a faculty's point of view, we would just like to know the mission and vision of the board about developmental education as we feel some of these changes. Most of you might be aware that the compass exam is going away for placement. That opens up some questions. We redesigned the curriculum quite a bit, and that's brought about some changes. So I guess I think for me personally, and for faculty in general, we'd like the board to share their vision about the future of developmental education in community colleges.
Thank you. I think that's a good question for the board is thinking about where the college is headed in terms of the changes. We did hear a presentation, I believe, about a year ago from you and some peers regarding changes in the English area in results. And also we heard Carpenter, Burns, excuse me, about math out there, and suspect we've had about 6 months, but not a full semester class for math. I think for other trustees, well, how many should be looked, but I think it would be good for us to hear some information on progress. I too have heard about, of course, the compass we've been informed about the issues there. And if you read in the paper, the ACT and SAT and who's getting, who's losing and stuff that's out there. So I think this would be something that maybe we get filled up very quickly with the dinner session, but maybe not even the dinner session, maybe during the regular board meeting, we could look at where we're at on those. Because the Trustees Association statewide is doing the complete college 101, and as they pursued that, they looked at alternatives for what I would say is a traditional developmental approach. But I am anxious to hear what the trustees might be with the state meeting coming up, so we would be on that. So I can't speak statewide for WACCT, but I think there are some issues there that are open. We don't know where we're at necessarily. I think maybe that's true for college, but again, you fellow trustees have any questions for Leah or Archie?
Mr. Chair, I would like a little more specificity about your concern, and I'm not suggesting that now. I think subsequent, you want us to give you a reinforcement, I think, that your efforts are going forward and they're going to continue. I get that message. But I'd like some more specificity about the specific concerns. And maybe we could have that done at a subsequent time. In fact, I would propose it.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Don. I would like to have a presentation on like what exactly the issues are. And if we're going to develop a vision on it, then we also need to decide, it ties in even with the future and the vision of LCCC. So I agree. I would like some kind of presentation.
We'd be more than happy as a joint English and math to kind of let you guys know what we've done, where we're at, what the 12 members. ready to enter our college, ready to study. So without the developmental, and I don't know what's gonna take place, I think we're talking about the regional replacement, but I would like to know what they're gonna do.
Before I ask Dr. Schaefer something on this, I'm also a little bit interested to hear without a doubt approach to longer term thing, because it involves, I think, our integration with the public schools. You know, as we try and look at what we're doing, I think we have talked to Gravy on the past, and we've had presentations that involve post or secondary education, that maybe it's too far, maybe you're a little bit about what's going on. Thank you, Dr. Schaefer, or Vice President. Very,
No, and I think it's probably a good idea. In fact, we'll be happy to help coordinate a presentation, and we'll have, at least a semester under our belt, and two at the end of this semester with redefining the English program. We'll have the semester under our belt, and two in the spring with mathematics and looking at some of the outcomes data and things like that. I think that would be a good suggestion for the faculty to actually look at that and present it to the board. I will say I'm a little bit bewildered about the perpetuation of this concern. It was first brought up in an open meeting that Vice President Hay and Vice President Harper had with faculty and staff regarding plans for what we do when countries goes away. A while ago, and the question was brought up there, is developmental education going away? And I said at that meeting, we'll always have some type of role for developmental education in the community. Part of our mission is to always have some with some of those needs. It came up again in service. I think Trustee Erickson is still there. He stated that there's always going to be a role for developmental education. So maybe I'm dense and I'm starting to pick up some things, but we keep saying that, and so I don't know why the concern perpetuates. One thing that may be doing is there is a mounting body of research more on the math side than the English side of how a co-requisite model of education. What basically that is, simplified is that you take students that are determined not college ready, however you do to determine that placement test, GPA, whatever, and you enroll them in essentially supplemental course that takes the college level coursework in a traditional format, that embeds supplemental instructional coursework. So instead of 3 days a week and 5 days a week, we actually integrate that in for these populations of students. And the research and the push from Complete College America is to continue pushing students into those types of configurations to get them through a college level course in the first semester. And the data that's coming out as a result of that is pretty fascinating. Even for the students who bring the lowest ACT scores, the percent of students who complete that type of configuration is we're talking 60-some% compared to 19 of that. So that co-requisite model works. So I'm interpreting here that there's concern. We do not have a true co-requisite model. We have a couple of layers of co-requisites in the English program as options, and then we adopted the math pathways approach in mathematics. And so maybe the concern is that we're just going to force them stop doing what we developed and move to this co-requisite model. I'm not sure, but there's a concern about the role of development. We will always have a role for coursework and support systems that will help students who we know need help to be college ready. Community colleges, in which we are, we just need to find ways to deliver that. That's not exactly the best model possible to help students succeed. And that's part of our journey. The compass test, the placement test going away. The reason ACT is removing the compass test is they said it does not predict whether or not a student could succeed in college education. It predicts the likelihood that a good test taker will continue to be a good test taker. And it's hard to say, oh gosh, we don't have something that will tell us what numbers will put students there. And that's and you watch it in WF Policy Summit, they're just grabbing the next placement test, which we know has the same flaws. So that's very uncomfortable for us to say, oh my gosh, what might we actually need? And we're fearful of that. And so I get that, and we have to work through that. I've asked Vice President Harper and Vice President Hayes to working through that process, and it's been a very open, collaborative conversation that we've been uncomfortable. So I don't know, I'll continue to be football on our team, and most likely, Dr. Musley will most likely clarify things for me as we go along. But I do think it would be valuable to have a conversation on the presentation through the spring and see how these new designs have taken come into another thing. I think we can, as Dr. Musley has identified, and there are other things that we can continue to teach in that community.
Trustee Little?
Mr. Chairman, I have two things I want to follow up with. The one thing with following up with John. I think I'm going to ask a favor of Archie in working with you on this presentation. We do continue to hear about this, and I think part of the reason why we're perplexed is I think there's something we're not putting together. There's something, Archie. I don't know if it's an elephant or Archie, not Archie. Archie, if there's some kind of elephant in the room or something. And so what I would request is when we have this presentation, tell us the nitty gritty.
Dr. Schaefer, thank you for those comments. I guess I kind of feel in the middle of stuff sometimes, and I feel like I would be doing a disservice to my colleagues if I didn't bring some of these concerns. Dr. Schaefer, I've heard you and I appreciate your comments, and Trustee Little, as to your comments, we will let you know what those concerns are, where they're coming from.
Okay.
Let that out.
Yeah, I think that's important. And the other thing I wanted to say, you have an ad hoc committee for student. I forget the name of it. It's the thing we're on, Bill.
A&A, yes, and S.
Yes, but I would offer up our assistance in this. If there's anything that you would like Bill and Brad and I, as members of that committee, to look into or meet with Archie or Dr. Schaefer or Harry about, please feel free to utilize us as a committee.
I'll speak with Dr. Schaefer, you'll have a chance to see how we might want to look forward to this. I do know, and I think everybody in this room would like to have that perfect world where people are ready to pursue those courses and not need some better systems. But that's just being crazy. If you don't look at reality and realize that people, even myself today, would be in need of that co-representative, I think, and some of that coursework without a doubt, because I haven't used some of the stuff. I've had to go back and do some work. But yeah, I think your committee's a very good suggestion. Work with Dr. Schaefer and see what we might pursue there that would get us down the road to this. And I think your part of the conflict that has been alluded to, you have complete college American, you have complete college, you have WAC trustees, you have us trustees. I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives on this, but I think we're all looking at trying to find the best way to help students. Thank you. Any other questions for Archie? I have, I'm fine, you may take Dr. Messer. I would like to just ask a couple of questions of you, and maybe it's just one. You bring up these points about the HLC credentialing, and I understand we had discussed that before, and there's some issues, there's that policy, that I understand is being worked out. I would hope that maybe you keep this list. There were 6 items there, including the last one on developmental, but if you would maybe bring back to us where we're at on those and progress. We would like to hear what's taking place, not just the issues, but let us know from with respect to you folks how things are a meeting, right? Would that be okay? Any other questions for the from the trustees for my presentation? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the report. LCCEA, the Education Association, Megan Kelly, president. Did not see Megan earlier. Is someone else here to report? Thank you. Next item. And I love the title of that. Let's go back and we put that together. But nothing else has worked, but this isn't working. So, being a work item, customized training measures, and we would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have some data for us. Yes.
Thank you. Really, some of these data bites from the past, Dr. Jacobs, and Dr. Factory, do you want to do that as well, or is that just what- Okay, thank you. So, this is our fifth data bite on our key performance indicator, our KPI system. This is KPI-P, on customized training. It's the last of what we call our effectiveness indicators in the first bunch. And in customized training, if you turn to the back of your packet, you can see there are actually 7 measures in here, all having to do with how we interact with our community. We have the life enrichment course, how we're getting into the market in various ways we interact, the cultural activities and the public meetings and sporting events, how we get people to the campus. We're going to focus on the first set, the first three of those indicators, E1A to E1C. Those are all about our customized training. So, first thing I wanted to do is kind of define customized training for you. This refers to a training program that's developed through our workforce and community development school that Maryland Catholic is and it refers to a training program that's developed to meet specific workforce needs for specific employees. And only employees of that organization are in that training program. And we often get a question and go back and forth. These particular ones could be in workforce development, the one that we looked at last one. But because this is for a specific business, more we put it in this category because it's building community with those partners. Rather than the workforce development, those are the courses and the programs that are offered for all of our students, kind of open coming days. And so there's 3 measures on here, and they're all counting kinds of measures. The number of customized training programs that are offered. Here, a program might be offered more than once, but it's the number of distinct kinds of programs that are being offered. The number of businesses or organizations that are served by those, and the total participation, which is a duplicated count. That's every time an employee comes and participates in one of these training offerings, their count's been there. So those are
That's a duplicated thing.
yes. So with that introduction, I just wanted to look at the data related on here, and these are nice. I'll be preparing these programs. The first one is the number of programs, and you'll see it's a humongous jump. It's a very statistically significant increase from 2013-14 to 14-15, and in speaking with the past about this, it's going to be up again next month. So that's the first thing we see. That's an A. We look at huge increase.
Does she have a perspective as to why?
They were. I know why this year. I didn't ask for why last year. I think I've gotten back to what I'm. This year they're really diligently working on getting some OSHA training and the leadership training program and kind of diversify the kinds of leadership training that they're offering. And then look at, as you see when you get to the next slide,
Before you move on, I have sort of another question here. The 135 programs, are those independently different, or is it accumulation of one program may have been done 10 times?
this is 135 programs.
Different programs.
It's like the previous year, the 37 programs, they were offered maybe more than once. They had the same program, they tweaked it a little bit, but they had different partners that were doing it for. This is really 135 discrete programs. Any other questions on this one? The next slide shows the number of businesses or organizations that work here. These businesses, they're also include state agencies, kind of our one big term up here. This one went up only slightly, 173 on the year. This is the one of these three measures we actually have the external benchmark with. So in addition to our history on here, we've got the National Community College Benchmarking Project. We use the median of everybody who participates in that. And so even though we only went up slightly, we are so far above the national median, we still get a 2 on there. Normally, if we only went up slightly, you would think, okay, that's just average. So in the most recent available data from the National Community College Benchmarking Project, we're at the 84th percentile nationally. We're doing very well on it.
I have a similar question. The 173, are those discrete businesses or are they duplication?
This is discrete businesses. The only one that gets duplication is the next one.
Well, that's amazing.
Before you go to that, let me ask again, we've got this question like that. Years, we have ended up with 84%. What makes it unique?
So, and again, I will pose this question to you, ask to follow up on it, and we let you know. And Dr. Schaefer will get back to you. But I think it's because we've always really diligently pursued those partnerships, more than anyone in the state and nationally. The way we've always structured it is to try to form those relationships and get at that customer opportunity. Because where the bulk of our non-credit workforce development is in now is in this area. And with those relationships.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the other thing that really is worth keeping a horn about is that Wyoming, specifically through the Department of Workforce Services, is very focused on providing resources to help organizations and businesses train and develop their own workforce. And I would say that we are blessed to have a partnership with Workforce Services and the resources that come with that partnership to do that. And I would say that's probably one thing that really sets us apart. I would say in other states, we just have the resources to help businesses to do out these trainings. And so we continue to outpace that benchmark average. I think this is a result of our effort and the work the state provides that companies, businesses, and even state agencies can afford.
Mr. Chair, any other questions on? The way to put these two slides together is that even though the number of businesses grew slowly and steadily, we're offering more training programs to our existing partners. So we're getting more variety, we're getting repeat customers, is the way to think of that. And that's also reflected in the last of these three measures, the total participation. And again, this is the duplicated one. So if Trustee Erickson was in 3 training programs for his employer, he's counted 3 times. This is the only one that's duplicated. But again, that's a good growth from there. Back in the 2011-12, when that peak and then valley, that in the 10, 11, 11, 12 timeframe, we were doing training for every state agency, and then that finished. And that explains that big dip from 11, 12 to 12, 13. That was one training program, lots of clients. And so by kind of diversifying, we're seeing the effect of diversifying and increasing partners where if we that big drop that now we're doing steady. Any questions on that? So the last part of the slide before you get to the data table, just some things about what's going, where the college is going with these now. And again, I talked to Marilyn Cass about this, make sure I was representing her correctly here. They're developing new partnerships, slowly getting more people, more businesses involved in this. They're developing new trainings for both our existing partners and our new partners that we're doing. And again, they've been really concentrating on the safety, OSHA, and leadership duties this year, and different ways to get the leadership trainings out there. This has been a focus for a long time. And they're really trying to get steady growth and avoid those peaks and valleys of having a big one and then having it go away again, as a healthier way to really keep expanding and growing. And then just from a systems point of view, we're researching other benchmark sources. And there's only one of these three that has that external benchmark, which is part of our grading model. If you recall, we have a historical information, an improvement goal, and a benchmark in here. And there is a fairly new project from the same folks that we did at the community college benchmarking project on workforce development that was looking at what those measures are and if they fit with what we developed ourselves, we can adopt it to get that extra measure. And the rest of the packet is actually the data table and an excerpt from the KPI handbook, both of which are available on eDesign. The handbook is also available on our website.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on the page. It's a page that has community development listing of the data. And you have the total participation in customized training programs, and then also total participation in non-credit life enrichment sessions. Are those exclusive numbers? In other words, of the 3,760, that 2,036 from the customized training is not subsumed within that.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, and that is correct. They're different numbers. Now,
Yes.
it's possible that Don Erickson is in the customized training and in the life enrichment course, but they are truly separate. Different types of programmatic offerings.
That's the question. Thank you.
Have a question. And is the certified public manager course in this, or is that separate?
That was, yes and no. Some of those numbers was a customized program with the certified public management. So that content is actually offered two ways. Customize it for specific businesses or agencies, but it's also offered for, packaged in a way that anybody can come and get it. So some of this would be, some of our certified public managers would be in there, but not exclusive.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask another question? And is there, I'm trying to picture what one of these classes would be. So, like if I come to town and I open a flower shop, I could knock on Mary Ellen's door and say, can you offer a class in flower arranging? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yes, it's probably more like, I have a new business in town, and I have employees that need customer service. And we do a training so we can train, so my employees can do that better.
Oh,
So job
Okay.
specific skills
There's a whole
that
bunch of
I
stuff.
have a need for in my business.
oh.
So,
For the most part, soft skills.
Mr. Chairman, trustee Little, customized training is oftentimes called contract training as well, and it's differentiated from the life enrichment or the personal enrichment coursework, which is much more for your own enrichment, lifelong learning. customizer contract trainings really are negotiated offerings between an organization and the college. And they really can run the gamut from training in lean manufacturing to customer service skills, a lot in the computer science areas. But generally, what distinguishes them is that there's an interaction between the organization and the college, and they say we have this specific need, and the college customizes an educational program specifically for that.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, that, okay.
Could well be that they're looking for material usage.
Yeah, like it could be OSHA or something. Some kind of safety thing, could be something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay, that makes, now I get it. Okay, thank you.
Let me come back to two things I had. One, first I want to say yay, because I was concerned about this at one point in time. And I can see my concerns need not be there, and that is in terms of enrichment. I think the college, one of the things that we previously provide to maintain our relationships with the community is the enrichment. And the other question I have, though, deals broadly with all the different training that's offered. I wonder sometimes, this is a pretty broad perspective, but what can we do to maybe enhance the level of education for the folks in the workforce in these companies that could be more credit driven and might fit well into our certificates? I'm just thinking that we do a lot of stuff piecemeal. And I'm hoping that you look broadly down the road, maybe 5 years ago, you put this customer service management, customer resource management software. You're talking about how you use that as a company. Some of those can become, I would think, credit courses and lead to perhaps certifications down the road and benefit the students and perhaps having a certificate maybe at some point that is really key for other things.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would say we're doing that, and I think it's becoming more of a conversation, and I'll just give you 2 examples. The first example of these are health information management programs, the coding of information management. That really started as a non-credit offering directly in response to the hospital association's needs to move their staff from ICD 9 to ICD 10, the coding changes with that, and it's grown into staff with credential certificates and an associate degree. And here in just a moment, you're going to hear about center scale processing, which certainly could be and probably has been stay offered as a non-credit option for people working. And as you'll hear from me here in a moment, this is an opportunity to actually build that into credit type credentialing processes. And so I think people are really looking at that, and one thing that we've been talking about on campus is how do we find ways to capture the success that exists and then help those successes, whether it's a certificate or a quarter studies and industry certification. How do we use that as an opportunity for people to actually step back into their education pipeline?
Good to hear. Look forward to hearing more about that. I don't have any more questions. Anything else? Thank you again. Very informative. Budget. That's the way I feel about this budget document concept. And I talked with Trustee Erickson about this forward a while back, and we kind of bounced around, looked at it. He's served on, on the F&M committee for a couple of years, more than a couple of years, but has been very involved in finances as a treasurer, obviously. perspective. So I think there's some interesting perspectives for us as trustees that give some consideration and would they keep in mind. When we look at that budget book in the spring and we begin to get the initial optimism as we move forward, one of the things I think we all struggle with just as calculators is trying to appreciate what some of those categories and items really reflect on the need. I think our staff, Rick, will be taking this to come to Dr. Schaefer has done a great job in the past of explaining stuff to us, but I think it would help with some of the ideas that Trustee Erickson was for us. So,
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you for the intro. Thank you. I appreciate that. The budget document really is one that provides the information that's needed for our knowledge of the revenue and how we're going to spend it by a lot of various categories here on campus. And this idea kind of feathered me a little bit when I was studying for a couple of forums. I remember when this past fall we had the city administrator proposal that went before the people, and I was asked to be on that forum a couple of times. And I decided to start looking at the city of Cheyenne budget along with other budgets of municipalities throughout the state. And I was struck by the city of Cheyenne's budget and the way it's presented. And we have a copy of that here, and if anyone would like to look at it, please feel that you should go through it. But what I see that you have in that city of Cheyenne budget is information about the city, comparative information, descriptive information about what the city is doing in its various departments, and also telling a story. You know, and I think about, well, what can we do maybe through our budget document, which would be, I don't know, maybe it's more of an annual report, but through the budget, identifying some comparative things, how we compare with maybe the other colleges in a variety of different parameters, how our enrollment has been going, and show some trend data that will describe what we're doing. Another thing that I noticed that the departments, the city department, we have vice presidents, cabinet, and they have their various dollars that they're spending. And we know that they have programs that they're going to spend that money on. And I think it'd be good in the budget document to describe a little bit more rather than just dollars and cents, which is basically in generalization terms. It doesn't give a great deal of specificity. And we got a great story to tell. This year we have a number of things that we can be very proud about in terms of graduation rates, completion rates. We got 2 new buildings that are going up. That city budget also has a lot of nice pictures that kind of brings some real closeness to the reader about our institution. So I brought this over to Dr. Joe, and Dr. Joe said, well, let's bring it up and talk about it. We brought it up with our chairman, and here we are. I think it would be useful for this document, our budget document, to have more comparative, descriptive information about what we're doing. And also, there are things that we want to tell people about, our stakeholders, individuals out in the community that'll be interested in what we're doing. And I'm not just talking about the legislators. I remember I mentioned the legislators at Dr. Joyce. Dr. Joyce said, oh, they get so much, we don't want to bother them with too much data and material. But if we can present a document that is friendly, is reading, a budget is very, I'm sorry, Rick, a budget's very boring. I know it's an important thing that we need to do. We need to approve the millions of dollars that we're going to be expending. So that's where I was coming from. And Dr. Joe and our chairman said, well, let's have a conversation at the board meeting. And I think you have some additional thoughts that you'd like to share with us and see where it goes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would agree that we have this conversation. I have been known to be attracted by the next best thing. So I've been learning to kind of critically evaluate things. And so when this was brought to my attention, of course, I like to document it, really jumped out. But after having it for a while and thinking about it and chatting with folks, I come back to the two things, purpose and audience, and trying to really in what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm still struggling with those two elements and whether or not this would be a budget document or if it's something else. And so I'll just throw these out there to help facilitate your conversation. We do have the budget, the fiscal budget. We are in that stage now where we have to be working on an update to the trustees orientation manual. Elections coming up next fall. And that's sort of a repository of information as well. This fall, based on your direction to me from your committee evaluation, I'll be bringing up the institutional effectiveness report in the fall. And then something that we've been discussing for a while has been an annual report. We don't really publish an annual report in the issue of the county. Actually, continue to launch this here this week yet. There is the second iteration of an annual report supplement, but it is very, very high level. So there's those different pieces that all kind of touch in this document that the Harrison has brought forward. And so I'm right now grappling with, is it a budget document? Is it one of these other documents? Is it a merger? And then of course the whole time I'm being cognizant of the additional work that the acting nurse to do and other folks on campus. And I want to make sure I'm clear on the value, the purpose, the audience before I even ask them to do that. So that's why I would evaluate.
And I think that's a reasonable concern. That we don't want to put more work on a stretched faculty and staff already. The concept here is one that's fairly common among higher education institutions. I went on the internet, and there are a number of budget reports that include comparative, descriptive information that tells the reader of that budget document what's going on specifically at the college. The issue of the audience, I think that audience is whatever we wish it to be. And I think we prepare the document accordingly. But I'd like to hear responses too and other ideas. I know this is a concept that hasn't been fully conceptualized here, and we're just kind of throwing it out for some immediate, some initial discussion. I'd like to at least pursue it a little bit for your thoughts.
I have a couple thoughts. There are some things in here that I think we probably don't need, but there are some things in here that I think would be kind of cool to have. Like there was a pretty picture of how the city spends its money or something like that. It was a thing in blue. But I mean, something like that. How the city allocates its money, kind of in blue like that. So I think there is, like, just picking out little pieces maybe we could do. I would say maybe we could get together and say, why don't we do something like this, or why don't we do something like this? But maybe just not the full scale of what the city has done.
This is only an example.
Right, exactly.
The content is totally separate from the type of content we would have. What strikes me about this is the friendliness of it. Because of the graphs and comparisons, the pictures that are included, it brings it home, it brings it close to people.
And so I agree with that. The other thing I would say though is I would hope that we as trustees would not have too much critical input on pictures and colors, and that we would hold up the process by making sure that that we approve of all the pictures and the colors. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Okay. Trustee Merrill, you were ready to jump in.
Thank you. Wow. I hadn't thought about it going like that. It's lovely. I think it's very nice. And I don't have no comparison to any other communities or colleges or community colleges. I think it's gonna cost a lot of money. I think it's gonna take a lot of time. I think it could be something that we work into, but tonight, it's gonna be hard to make any kind of decision except what Don asked for, which was just an overview of how we feel about it. I think it's beautiful. I like it a lot. I think the budget report is hard to read, and it's better because we've been better educated when we're reading that budget. And we have lots of months to look at it and think about it. And maybe some of those arrows of how English spends its money or academic, I mean, I know it's all in there, it's just a little hard to read sometimes. And maybe it's hard for the community to read it as well. Whereas if they picked up this book, they might see it more quickly. I don't know, I can't speak for the community, but anything that would make it easier for us as trustees would be, I would like it. I don't know how to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dubois.
From the first year when I went on here and now what we get, it's so different. I mean, I think the budget is relatively easy to read. In my opinion, I think pictures and all these things are nice, but they are expensive. And the question is, who is the audience that is going to read the budget and really want to know the facts and figures? And I think that, and John, I agree, the city budget is one thing, a college budget is another. The city budget affects millions of people. And it's not that the college budget shouldn't affect people, but I don't think it's the same sort of thing for an entire community versus the college situation. And I just don't see that adding pictures and doing things like that will in any way improve the reading of the budget and knowing what's there. And it also, Carol, our Chairman Merrill, you mentioned, and the extra cost, I just don't think we need. Now that's my opinion. Thanks.
May I add?
Trustee Merrill.
Thank you, Joe. I just want to say that Don, as a treasurer, has done an amazing job at his job. And it's been fun to be on that committee, the Finance and Facilities Committee, and to watch how Don's mind works. And I know that he's always looking for ways to improve and to improve communication. So I have to say that I'm very proud to serve with him. And I know he's trying to make us a better group of trustees and to improve the college. And so I appreciate that, but I guess we'll go where we go with it.
But, and Mr. Chairman, I think it was Trustee Little that made the recommendation. It may be wise if this, Trustee Erickson's passionate about it, and I think there's some validity in what he's talked about. If you as a board wanted to appoint an ad hoc committee to look at it and give us some direction on, yeah, we should include this would be helpful for us in our, no, not this, then I think it'll be much easier for us to move forward and fulfill your wishes with that. So I think that's a fair suggestion. And that would be helpful for me to know, we really like this, we don't see value at this, or this is what we'd like to see, this would help us understand this.
Incidentally, Mr. Chair, I'm not looking at us implementing this within this coming fiscal year. I see this as an evolving. I see this as something that would be evolving. Yeah, and hopefully, if we move forward with some modifications, that they would be incorporated in the fiscal 18, fiscal 17. Just to give you some idea that I'm not pushing this real hard, but I am pushing it.
I think Dr. Schaefer's recommendation is very good, but I'm thinking that rather than an ad hoc in addition, the F and F could pick on a little extra work there. And I really think the F and F committee probably ought to take a look and make some succinct suggestions about what we might first look at, the first steps. Because I think there are a lot of things, and I agree with Trustee DuBois, we don't want pictures just to be taking up space because those documents grow so fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they're appropriate, and I don't think Trustee Erickson was really looking at a lot of pictures, but when something's appropriate to help us understand it and provide that interest on the community to pick up something and really take a little closer look at it and easier to understand, I think that's what we're looking for. And not only that, but for the trustees themselves to do that. So, yes.
I don't think this book tells the whole story of the city budget. I didn't have much time to look at it, but it does not look, what did you think, Mr. Schaefer? Does it tell the whole story of the city budget?
Mr. Chairman.
Let me respond. I'm neither competent nor qualified to attach.
Well, you certainly have an opinion.
Yes.
Yes, I would say it's rather comprehensive.
You think so?
Yes.
I need to look at it again.
So with that and additional, I haven't closed off the comments, but I really would suggest that maybe we think about, we'll decide next time, and F and F might come back to us and say, we want to take on this task, or not. And I know earlier a committee has chosen to take on some additional work, so maybe F and F would want to step up and do that, but we could.
I could hardly say that the chairman of the F and F wouldn't be for it. Obviously, I would be for it. I think maybe Trustee Merrill might be for it.
I'll go along.
So let's, at this point, in the next meeting, I would like the F and F to make a suggestion to us, maybe a little bit on timeline and a little bit about maybe a couple of areas that you want to look with. And I would ask you to do this, that you have an expert over there in terms of our vice president, and maybe ask Rick to maybe make some suggestions about some of the things that he might feel would add. And yes, Dr. Schaefer, we ought to have your suggestions. Whether it tells the whole story or not, is all we want to hear from you. But given that, next meeting, I would appreciate a report back on that. And how far you go with it, it's up to you, but maybe give us.
Would that be an initial report?
Yes. Just to start us. Any other comments on this issue? Okay. At this time, we'll take a look at filling the building authority position. And I'd like to have Vice President Rick Johnson speak to that. If you would just tell us a little bit about that, and then Trustee Erickson, yes, I'll entertain the motion.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. The time has come up for the building authority to re-elect their leader. They've chosen to have Dr. Marty Carroll stay in that role. He's agreed and brought that to you for your approval.
Okay, any questions as to the role, position, anything about the candidate here?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Carroll has been a solid member of this committee. He's attended every one of the building authority meetings. As I understand it, he contributes, he participates, and he wishes to continue. I definitely think that we should give him the opportunity to continue. Therefore, I make the motion to appoint Dr. Marty Carroll to the building authority for the next term.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving Dr. Martin Carroll for another 2-year term on the building authority position, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. maybe we should have asked you while you were up there whether or not that tells the budget, tells the full story. You can share that with F and F next time. Okay. We have a discussion about the approval of credit diploma and certificate programs. And with that, the first thing I'd like to do is reference the committee, the Academic Affairs and Student Services Ad Hoc Committee. Just a brief overview, if you would. I know the chair of that committee, Brenda Little, was out of town and unable to be there. So Trustee Merrill, if you would just give us a brief oversight, I would appreciate it.
Well, and Brad was going to report on these two programs, and he is ill this evening, so he cannot do it either. But Don and Ed and myself and Brad were all at that meeting, and it was noticed in the paper so that it was okay for Florence to be here. I was tremendously impressed with both programs. Yeah, sure. The personal trainer program, as well as the central sterile processing programs, were presented by Connie and Cindy, and don't tell me, Nick. Thank you. They did a great job. It took about an hour, and I was so impressed. I took the central sterile processing information to my grandchild and said, "This is a program for you." And it only takes 16 hours, I believe, and 400 hours of actual work to become certified in this program. They're both certification programs. The personal trainer, I really should let you explain the programs. But the four of us that were there, I believe, were very impressed and would say, let's go ahead and approve these programs. So is that what you would like for them to go
Yes,
ahead?
we'd like to hear from them, unless Terry would like to say anything.
Sure. Oh, Terry introduced. Sorry, Terry.
How do you want to approach that? If you want them to present or you? Or
Terry,
whatever.
would you like to introduce?
Well, I'd love to introduce them. Thank
Please
you.
do so.
Good evening, Chairman Mosher, members of the board. I'm delighted to introduce our faculty members so that they have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about these two certificate programs. I'll start out with Connie Zarnecki. And Connie has been with us since spring of 2015. She moved here from Chicago, where she has worked in the OR for years, also taught in a surgical tech program. She reactivated our surgical tech program and also revamped that program so it would be offered in a hybrid format. She has 9 students currently in that program. I just reviewed their course success rates, and it's 100% for all of those courses for this past fall. She's doing a wonderful job with that program, reactivating it and getting it going. She came to us with a lot of enthusiasm and ambition to look at what we have in place and utilize what is already currently in the lab. We have the autoclaves and all of the sterile instruments and supplies necessary to start a central sterile processing technician program. So to her credit, she jumped on that bandwagon. We would be, as you already know, the only program in the state of Wyoming that offers the surgical technology program. We would also be the only program in the state that would offer a central sterile processing technician program. And she did not walk into this blindly. She did a lot of vetting through different hospitals and other folks across the state as to the necessity of offering this type of education in order to train our folks to be able to get into the hospital environment and have this certification and do what's necessary to meet the industry needs. Without saying too much more about that, I'd love to just hand it over to Connie, and she can talk to you a little bit more about the program.
Thank you, Vice President Harper. Good evening, Chairman Mosher and honorable trustees, administrators, faculty, staff, and friends. Did I get everybody? I think so. I am thrilled to be with Laramie County Community College. I was in the business world for a long time and in the operating room, ran a staffing agency for surgical assistants in the Chicago area, sold the business, and decided it's time to share my knowledge. I interviewed and applied nationwide, and when I interviewed here with the group, I just honestly said, I'm home. This is it. This is where I want to be. I'm very excited about bringing back the surgical tech program. I have 9 wonderful students. I think it's the largest cohort that we've had here in history. That being said, it was challenging. The goal was to provide a hybrid program so that people in the state could take the didactic theory online, the courses online, and just come for lab at the college. And it's working. It really is working, and the students really love it. They love the fact that they don't have to be here all the time for the classroom, but the time that they have in the lab and with the instructors and myself, they can approach us at any time. We're very available to our students. I have an adjunct instructor that helps me out quite a bit. So one of my first projects was to develop an advisory board, and that's pretty much where the idea for the Central Sterile Processing Program came from. It became apparent that not only did the state need surgical technologists, certified surgical technologists, but they needed central sterile processing employees. And they're hard to come by, and they are training their own. Now, when they train their own on the job, they don't have the certification. So my brain told me that, first of all, their people need training. Second of all, we need to offer a certification program. When I walked into our lab on my interview and I looked around at the lab, and please, I invite everyone to come visit this lab. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The equipment that we have, the supplies that are there, the room itself mimics an operating room. I noticed, as Vice President Harper said, that we had the sterilizing equipment, we had the trays, we have the caskets, that's what they're called, to put the trays into to sterilize the equipment. And the advisory board said, we really are excited about you talking about this program. So the program itself is a 1-semester, no prerequisite program. So someone can come in, whether it be a high school graduate, a retrained adult that needs a new occupation, somebody that wants to be in the medical field but isn't quite sure if they want to deal with the people, the patients, the blood and guts. So this may be for them. This is a hands-on mechanical job. They would be certified through a national organization, and I'm not gonna say the whole name right without looking at it, so I have to pick this out. Unless you can still say it, right? Here, go ahead, Terry. Go ahead.
I think it's right in your.
Is it right in my
documentation.
packet? I
Yes.
put my glasses on them.
It's the International Association of Healthcare Central Service Material Management.
Which is the most recognized, thank you, association for central sterile processing. So the course consists of or the program consists of an 8-week course, didactic theory, and then a 10-week course, which is the clinical portion. To be certified, the students need 400 clinical hours. Now, the unique thing about this is that most programs, the students cannot be being paid for what they do while they're students. In this program, the students can actually be working and being paid while they're gathering their clinical hours. So let's take a person that's in central supply right now, on the job trained. Their hospital says, wow, I'd really like you to be certified. They find out about our program. We say, well, you can take the theory online. You only have to come to campus 2 weekends out of the 8 weeks for the lab portion, so you're not going to miss any work. And then you can continue working and clocking your hours, and when you're done, you sit for your certification exam here at the college. We hope. I have to look into having us approved as a site for the test. The other choice, like I said, is somebody coming out of high school, not really knowing what they want to do. No prerequisites. They see this, they say, I can get a job in any hospital, any surgery center, anywhere that has sterile supplies. I can take this 1 semester course and I can be working. And the best part is that once they've taken this course, they might realize that, hey, now that I know all the equipment and all the tools needed in surgery, maybe I want to be a surgical technologist. So maybe I want to go back to LCCC and get into that surgical tech program. So then we have students, we have degree-seeking students that were certificate-seeking students. And if we take it one step further in my brain, sooner or later, maybe we can have a surgical assistant program. There are only 8 in the country. So maybe we can be the 9th. We'll see. Okay, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Trustees, questions, comments?
I don't have a question, I certainly have a comment. Yeah. You know how the surgical tech program is structured. And with Terry and then with Connie coming in, approaching that problem in a positive way and looking, what can we do to make this a great program? And they rebuilt it, they rescheduled it. And you could hear the types of things that they adjusted to. And I'm just absolutely amazed. Mr. Newspaper, Mrs. Newspaper, man, I'll tell you, there's a story. The surgical, this whole business about surgical tech and the certificate for central sterile processing, which is a certificate. It's not a degree, it's a certificate. We do a lot of certificates out here. And when we're preparing people for college ready, we're also preparing them for career ready. And we do a lot of career ready response here at this college.
Trustee Merrill, would you like to, the chair would entertain a motion?
I was just going to do that. I would entertain a motion that we approve the credit diploma certificate program of Central, let me see here, Central Sterile Processing.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
The only thing that I would entertain is we have to get permission to do this, right? To get the certificate. That's the only question. Is there a great possibility of doing that?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill, I think you're referencing to the additional steps. Now we have to move through the steps of taking it to the Community College Commission and the Higher Learning Commission, our accrediting agency, for approval, as well as the Department of Education for any financial aid approval of these programs. We're working through the commission process. I think Vice President Harper has a plan to work through that process, but our intent and our goal is to still have this on the books for fall semester 2016, and it seems achievable.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, trustees. I appreciate it. And I promise we will succeed.
Terry, would you like to bring up the next person.
Yes, I'd be delighted. I'd like to introduce Nick Robertson, who is our program director at this point for the exercise science and physical education teacher education program. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge Interim Dean Henning's participation in allowing both of these faculty to have the resources and the support necessary to pursue these certificates. Do know that Nick Robertson will probably be up to visit with you again in the near future because there are at least a couple other certificates that they are looking to propose. In this case, we are looking at a personal trainer certificate, and Nick joined us 2 years ago as an interim faculty member. And this past year, he was hired as a full-time member of our faculty and began the process in collaboration with Dean Henning to look at the potential opportunities within the exercise science, physical education programs. And out of that review, the personal trainer certificate arose. And so this is a 2-semester certificate that will again meet industry needs to have personal trainers that are certified, working with folks within the local community gyms and of course in the regional areas that they would be employed. And this particular program, I'm happy to report, would incur no additional costs for the college. All of the courses that make up this particular certificate are already offered by the college. And so we have the faculty in place, and it would be a very wise decision on our part to take this the next step for certificate approval so that we can also begin offering this program in fall of 2016. But Nick, if you'd like to come up and share a little bit more about the certificate, that would be great.
Nick, welcome, and I look forward to you providing some kind of relief so I shrink. What type of well,
all right, thank you, Chairman Mosier and Board of Trustees. So I'd also like to thank Terry for introducing everything. Her and Cindy Henning worked really closely with me on making the certificate program and making it look nice and making sure we had everything that we needed in there and going through all the stuff. So they were very helpful for me as well. And with talking with our exercise science committee when we were redesigning our whole curriculum, exercise science, physical education, these certificates did come up, and one of them was personal training. So we worked with them, have their approval to move this forward. And as Vice President Harper was telling us, there's no additional cost because all the classes that are on here are ones that we already offer. And so it gives students who maybe want to start personal training or entering the workforce without having to finish their AS degree, they can do that sooner. This will help prepare them to become that personal trainer. And then if they want to come back to school, which we're hoping that they're going to want to, because that's kind of definitely the trend that personal training is going in, is more educated personal trainers, they'll be able to hop right back in and not skip a beat because everything that they've taken except for healthcare ethics is part of either exercise science or the physical education program. So we thought that that was pretty cool. So it covers a wide range of students of who just want to go work and come back, or maybe someone that already has a different employment and they just kind of want to start personal training part-time. It gives them that opportunity as well. And so when I was designing the kind of which courses were going to be on there, it's all based off of the American College of Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer exam. And they're really the gold standard on exercise physiology as a governing body. There's a few of them that are really good, and ACSM is definitely one of them. And so that's why we chose them. If a student has that certification and they apply for a personal training job, it doesn't guarantee they're going to get that job, but there really isn't a certified personal trainer certification that looks better, because there are a lot of them. But this one in particular is one of the best. And we have a testing site here on campus that they actually can take that exam, their ACSM certified personal training exam, which is cool. So they can do all that while they're here on campus. And they're definitely rigorous courses. The national rate of passing that test is about 60%. And so 40% people fail their first time around. And this program, we will have better numbers than that. It really will help prepare the students, because a lot of people do go into it thinking, I played sports in high school, I know what I'm doing, I can go take this exam. Really, it takes quite a bit of studying work to be able to do that. And so I'll be happy to be able to look at what our statistics compare to just people that go in and take the exam. So I think it'll really help our students pass that exam and be a good personal trainer once they're done. So there's not classes in there that just help them pass that exam, but also will help them be a successful personal trainer once they get out. And we've already had some community members actually come to us and ask us if we have certified personal trainers that can come and work at their business. Kind of in the process of while we were making this, they couldn't find people that they wanted, that were educated enough or had the certifications that they wanted. So that was really neat, I guess, that they reached out to us that way, that they were looking for people. So it kind of showed us there was a need here in the immediate community that we would hopefully be able to help fulfill that our students that could get the certification. And I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I think this is another perfect example of the question I asked earlier regarding Anne Murray's data in workforce development. This is an example of where students are taking credit courses, preparing themselves for work, they're working and getting a chance to come back and continue that education, which is what we're trying to help in terms of raising the level of education for the workforce. So I compliment you on that. Any comments? Trustee Merrill?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, did I? She's on the right, you're on the left. Trustee
I think
Lou.
Carol might have been getting ready to make a motion. I was.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. So, Nick, I belong to Fitness One out on Van High.
Okay.
And there's,
There we go.
there is a large range of age at Fitness One, where there's high school kids in there, and then there are people even older than me in there. And one of the things that they offer at Fitness One is personal training.
Mhm.
I can imagine from the folks that I know who go to Fitness One that when they want a personal trainer, they would want somebody with a certificate. That would not surprise me.
Yeah.
So I would guess that part of this is a kinesiology kind of thing. And does this certificate cover personal training for a wide range of ages? So do you have the expertise here to teach all the way from high school kids to geriatric kind of stuff?
So on the ACSM exam that they have to take, they do have to take into consideration different age groups and be able to design programs based off of their past training experience. You know, if you get a 7-year-old that's never exercised before, they will learn how to treat them differently than a 20-year-old who's been exercising for 4 years. They're not necessarily going to be experts with the certifications, but there are other certifications out there, like through the ACSM, where you can specialize in disease populations or older populations. And so they will get their foot in the door with that, but they definitely wouldn't be like your experts in the field on training geriatrics, for instance, with this certification.
Yeah, so it's a general thing, it's not a specialized.
Yep.
But still, but it would be, the generalized curriculum would still be able to be good enough to cover a certification.
Yeah, you still cover that stuff. It just, like I said, you don't really specialize in one area, you kind of cover everything.
I would guess this would be a fairly valuable certificate to have.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as a personal trainer, if you're certified through like one of 3 agencies, really, you can really work pretty much anywhere part-time. Full-time jobs you can still get, but you have to be really dedicated, for what you want to do. Most people don't have like the emotional stamina to do that. And so, but people can do really whatever they want with them. So yeah, with this certification, if they want a job somewhere, they can probably get one.
Trustee Little and Nick, with regards to her question about the coursework, there are 2 or 3 kinesiology courses in this?
Yeah, so we have like fitness component flexibility, so it's a class that they'll learn solely on flexibility. They'll have a class where they'll learn only about muscular strength and endurance, a class they'll only learn about cardiovascular endurance. So how our program is a little different than some other ones is anatomy and physiology is usually included in a course like this. That is helpful as a student would progress on as a personal trainer, but it's definitely not needed in that much detail to become a certified personal trainer to be effective. So the class that we have in there, instead of that, is human body systems. And that kind of lets us have a lower credit load. And some people that, if they're kind of scared of school, they just want the certificate, they don't want to do the gen eds and stuff, and that biz can be pretty daunting when they're first starting out.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a decision that we made there too. So there are classes where they definitely, kinesiology type courses in there.
And yet, as you indicated, to pass that test, these standards and the demands of that coursework is that they're going to have to be prepared then.
Yeah, they will definitely have to be prepared to pass the exam.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we approve the exercise science personal trainer credit diploma certificate program.
I would second that motion.
Thank you, Trustee.
May I just say that I'm so excited about these programs because I really love the medical programs that we have at this college. And I think the people that come out of them, the students that graduate, are very successful. And our programs are very successful. We have very high graduation rates. Is that not true? That is true. And so, and this man could be my relative.
Oh, you got a daughter?
My daughter's last name is Robertson.
I'm glad you simplified.
We thought it was just like a dating service.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
That's
Thank you,
really
Board. We'll
exciting.
be excited to give you the final news when this gets approved through the Wyoming Community College Commission and report back in a year as to the success of the programs.
And I think as Dr. Schaefer said, it's got, what, 3 steps? Academic affairs, and then the commission, and then HLC.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just point out personal privilege, I just want to point out and illustrate some of the work that's happening across the campus, amongst the faculty and in the schools. And I think both Connie and Nick, and certainly Cindy, Dean Henning, the work that they're doing. It's this focused, purposeful shift that's centered on the student to recognize that there are opportunities to configure programs in a way that lead to success benchmarks with tangible outcomes and tangible opportunities for employment, the collaboration with their advisory boards. The focus of their efforts should really be applauded and not overlooked. I appreciated Trustee Erickson's remarks about the surgical technology program and what Connie's done there. And similar energy has really been grappled. It wasn't all that long ago, Cindy, that I remember we were talking about the exercise science program, and we were looking at how we get people to even choose it as a major. And to see that not only flourishing, but now seeing Nick bring in these value-added options. These folks are to be commended, and it's just one of the illustrations of what our faculty are doing, really to respond to the need to get students to complete, but even more importantly, the need to design programs that serve the students and the community at the same time. So thank you for your efforts on this.
Here.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Now we'll put Dr. Schaefer on the.
Better go fill up my water.
Yes. No, he needs to tell them. We're ready for the president's report, and if you would take us through that, Dr. Schaefer.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, an interesting anecdote. Just before the dinner meeting, I looked at your lovely secretary and told Vicki, I said, Vicki, you don't need to print my agenda stuff. I'm comfortable with it on my computer. I think I've got it all handled. I'm feeling really good about it. And then I walked in here and my device was out of energy. Charger. So I might have jumped the nest a little bit too early, unnecessarily. So I'm going to do my best to answer your questions and cover my report with the information I have. And next time I will have my charger with me. So the first thing on my report, you received from me
an update. One of the things that your subcommittee, you ultimately asked me for was a mid-year update on the goals that you've set or you've established for me in this year. You have a memorandum that is from me to you that includes both the goal language that was set for the year as well as an update. The first thing that I want to point out is that generally when you ask me to do something or I establish a goal, what we're really asking is a lot of people on the campus to roll up their sleeves and help out. And so as we've gone through these, I've tried to identify the folks specifically on the President's Cabinet who are really doing a lot of the work and helping me move these goals in the direction that I think you want. And so while I'm reporting them as my goal updates, what you really need to know is this is an update on the work that a lot of people on campus are doing here in the direction of some wonderful executive leaders. So with that, there's various updates. I won't go through and read them. They're there for your information. We are making progress on all items, and hopefully the information provided gives you sort of a sense of where we're at with each of the projects. But I would be happy to pause here and see if there's any questions you may have about the update on the goals that I could answer.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a chance to read through the updates, and it's quite obvious that this is a team that you put together, and you've given your team a lot of work, and we recognize that. And I know Cindy left, and she was a little concerned a little bit earlier about maybe having an additional job. And, you are doing, I think, what we had asked for. We wanted to have a progress report midway in the fiscal year. That's what you're doing with this. I have no specific questions about your progress report. I'm pleased that things are coming together. Some of these things you're not going to be able to accomplish totally within 1 year, obviously, but I'm kind of pleased with the direction where you're going.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in the essence of time, please review those. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to respond, but I'm very grateful for the team that we have and the folks that we have who are helping move us in the right direction.
May I say something?
Trustee Merrill.
This is exactly what the committee, the evaluation committee asked Dr. Schaefer to do, which was to give a report in January and then to give a second report in May. So thank you for staying at heart.
You're welcome. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, last week we had the opportunity, based on an invite from the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jillian Balo, to attend her first ever S5S, I think I have that right, Don, S5S, which is essentially the Superintendent Summit on education. And while it was predominantly focused on individuals in K-12, specifically superintendents, principals, and their chair trustees, we were encouraged to come, and I'm glad that we participated in that. Vice President Hay and Dean Tast and a few other folks from LCCC were there as well throughout the day. And overall, the summit was really a nice kickoff for the superintendent's push to bring the state as an educational entity together to really tackle some challenging issues, I think, with it. And I look forward to future summits, and hopefully I will encourage, and hopefully we'll see other folks from the higher education community there. There was representatives from the University of Wyoming there as well, but it really ranged from issues dealing with what's happening in special education all the way up to college and career readiness. And I thought it was a useful and really helpful opportunity for us to engage with our K-12 partners in that setting. I was asked and had the opportunity to sit on a panel on one day regarding developmental education, and not to beat a dead horse, but I reminded folks of the good work we're doing here and the commitment we have to developmental education, and thought that was a pretty robust opportunity to discuss what we were doing and the issues we were tackling to make sure that we're getting more students college ready. So I thought it was a really valuable experience. And I know Trustee Erickson was there for much of it. I don't know if you have any comments or any thoughts that you'd like to share, Don.
Yes, I do. I would first ask if anyone wonders why it's S5S is the name of that summit. You know why it's 5?
Why? Please tell us.
The license plate,
She's fine.
Governor 1,
Yeah.
Superintendent
Oh.
5.
Yeah.
So it's Superintendent State Summit, State Superintendent Summit. And
That's
this is
very
this is the inaugural. It was, I thought, very stimulating. Yep. And I think that Dr. Joe is being somewhat humble here because you stole the show in that panel. I mean, you knew what you were talking about. Most of the other people there were participating with you. You were the leader there, no doubt about it. Talking about the developmental education problems that we had throughout the college system in Wyoming. You were a great representative for all of the community colleges, not only for LCCC. And I was proud to have my badge that said LCCC trustee with big letters right there. One of the, they had speakers of national capability. One fellow was the education director for the National Governors Association. And he said, what it's all about is raising expectations. And we're not about mediocrity. We're not happy with a 50% proficiency rate. Are we happy with 60%? Are we happy with 80%? Well, somewhere close to 80% we're getting kind of closer. But we're certainly not happy with 50%. And many colleges, that's what they have. Right around 50% proficiency by the parameters that they use to do the measurement. There was another fellow there, I don't know who he represented, but he was a luncheon speaker, and Hans Nieper, and he talked about various different approaches to approaching the responsibility of educating for what? Preparing individuals. We're not just teaching subjects. We're not just getting degrees, but we're preparing individuals for a career, for life, and life services, life activities, citizenship, those kinds of things. I was very pleased that Dr. Joel passed that information on for me and that I could go and listen to it. My initial reason for going, I wasn't able to follow up, and that was on financial literacy. They had a panel on financial literacy, and I couldn't attend that one. So I missed the main reason that I was going to go, but all the rest of the information that I got, I thought was very good from a trustee point of view. Again, thank you for the opportunity to know about it.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Just two other things, Mr. Chairman. At your place setting, you'll find a printout that looks like this. You maybe have seen something similar to this in the past. So this is the IPEDS data feedback report. And without going into great detail, IPEDS is the national data system in which all Title IV eligible institutions of higher ed have to report to on certain key metrics. We also go through the process and with Ann Murray, which was here because she really has done a fantastic job in using some sophisticated comparators to identify a peer group of campuses across the US. We're able to look at and get this feedback report that essentially provides comparatives of LCCC to our peer group of similar institutions. And how we're doing on some metrics. And this certainly is just a blush of what's available in the IPEDS data system. But I brought it to you, one, to make you aware of some of the other reports that we're using to monitor progress. But I wanted to just point out a couple of things for you. If you flip to page 3, you can see the listing of our peer institutions on page 2. All of the Wyoming community colleges are in that grouping. But on page 3, I want you to look at figure 3. So now this essentially is looking at 2013-14 academic year completions. And we have started to outpace our peer group medians in terms of the awards that we are awarding our students, but ultimately you are awarding our students. So we are doing strong in associates, in certificates of 1 year and then short-term certificates. And so we are really moving in the right direction in regards to getting students to those academic credentials. If you turn over onto page 4, under figure 5, we're also seeing the movement as we've tried to hold the average net price of attendance, the cost of attendance essentially for our students down in tuition and fees. And you can see that last year, for whatever reason, our cohort actually outpaced our peers. This year, we're back to where we want to be, which is that, you know, the average price that students would pay to go to college at LCCC is below our peer comparators. So something to look at. Then on page 5, if you flip it over on figure 10, I want to show this. This is the 2011 entering cohort. So we're just now. So these are students that are completed by fall 2014. So we're just going to start seeing some of these things show up because we look at cohorts that entered quite a while ago. This are the students that entered 2011. These are graduation rates and transfer out rates. My understanding from Ann is this is the first time we have ever outpaced our peer group in overall graduation rates and that combined grade graduation and transfer rates when you look at that. So this is the folks that essentially would have completed in spring of 14. You know, so we're ways past that because of the time lag, but this is the first indication that some of those things we started to put in place over the last couple of years are really starting to pay off. And we hope the retention numbers start to move in that direction as well. So really moving in. On the page 6, I just want to point out a couple of things. Overall, our enrollment with certain groups in our community is doing well. We're actually starting to capture and create an environment where a larger portion of the Latino community in Cheyenne is coming to LCCC, and that's great to see. But if you just look at the Hispanic Latino graduation rates, you can see this is how that equity gap is playing out at LCCC. We often hear about it from men of color. But for us, we need to be doing greater work with some of these groups to help them achieve their educational goals. Really a good thing to look at. Figure 12 looks at graduation rates based on time frames within 150% of the time or 200%. And you'll notice we do not outpace our cohort in this one. But I want to point out that this was our 2010 cohort. So these are the students that, really have been gone for a while. And so this is one you want to watch over time as we start looking at more recent cohorts. And so I anticipate, or that doesn't surprise me to see that cohort is very different than our 2011 cohort.
Just to interrupt you on that a moment, our effort in terms of changing requirements for graduation, bringing that down to 62 for most degrees, probably fully in effect last fall.
Mr. Chairman, really fully in effect for this fall. So if you're looking at a 2010 cohort and we're talking about the 2015 cohort, it's going to be a few years before you see the students that enter this fall show up in this
You won't see it 2017 potentially or 18.
Correct. And so I anticipate if we're doing our job right here, and I think everybody is, you'll start to see these measures improve substantially each year that we get them. So there's other measures in there if you want to look at educational expenditures, full-time staff, and all that great stuff. It's in there for you. But I just thought that was some good news, and I wanted to share it with you as well as making you aware of some of the other data and evidence sources we're using to help us monitor how well we're doing. And then that, Mr. Chairman, the last thing I have is just a construction update. In your materials, you have a construction update on both projects. They are moving along as anticipated, and as I think Facility and Finance Committee heard, and we'll probably report on it. As we get further into these projects, there's more moving parts, which means there's more things that we really have to monitor, and I sure appreciate what Vice President Johnson and Tim McNamara and others are doing to really stay on top of it. Those projects are taking shape quite quickly on our campus. So that's what I have for my report. If you have questions on construction, I will try to answer them, or perhaps Rick can step in and answer them as well. Thank you.
I do have one question for you. We had, I believe there was a potential for a change order, for example, in the classroom style in science. are we to the point where we progressed past that, or has that been taken care of yet?
Mr. Chairman and Trustee Erickson, will you make any comments on that? Because we did discuss that to some extent at the.
If you want to hold that until we get to the FNF, that'd probably be.
Sure, fine. And then I want to go back and as we looked at enrollment, we're just into the spring semester. Do we have any information on enrollment at this point in time?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I promised to look at that in between our lunch dinner meeting on that, and I haven't, so I will bring it to you at your next meeting.
Okay. But the battery's up on that.
On the phone it is, but here it's not.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Schaefer? We'll see if we can't find some a little later here. I'm up next, and the only thing I want to share with you very, very quickly, and I will try and work with Vicki and get this out to you. Some of you may get Fortune magazine. I happen to still take that. I don't read it all the time, but there's a wonderful article in there in terms of education, in particular, foundation for education that we all hear a lot about, and that has to do with the Common Core, and in particular with regards to General Electric and other major corporations and their effort in starting that Common Core way back when. And so it's a fairly lengthy article, but I think you would find it interesting to give you a flavor. We're partner with business all the time, business and education. It would give you a real flavor of how corporate America looks at education a little bit and how they got involved in some of the issues since then that they've encountered. So I'll try to work with Vicki to get that out to you because I think you'll find that article very interesting. I have nothing else there, but Trustee Erickson has a great deal on his plate, so I'll let him work right through GISS.
May I borrow your agenda, Bill? Oh, excuse me, we got one here. Unfortunately, I lost the agenda on the.
That's why your computer was talking back to you. Your battery went dead.
No, I hit the wrong button.
Come on.
Okay, I'm to give a report on a couple of things that are happening. I'm happy to do that. The Wyoming Community College Commission will be meeting on the 17th. Some of you may have thought it was going to be on the 19th, but that's been changed to the 17th. And therefore, the Wyoming Association of Community College Trustees Board meeting has been changed to February 17th after the commission meeting at 4 p.m. Both those meetings will be held here at the college. Then this year in February, although we have the WAC meeting here, it's hosted by Sheridan this year, I believe. And the program is going to be pretty typical to what we've had in the past. The morning session on February 18th will be a couple of speakers. One speaker will be Andy Corbin. Am I saying that name right? He's going to be speaking on some comparative data about our community colleges here, as I understand it, here in Wyoming. And then there's going to be an individual that's going to talk to us from ETS, Enterprise Technology Services Division, on cybersecurity. This is something that the new executive director of WAC felt to be valuable for trustees to hear. And don't ask me what that all includes, but that's the title. It'll be cybersecurity. I guess we can, I know from that what it's going to be all about. Then in the afternoon, at lunch on that day, we will have roundtable discussions on certain topics that I guess that still need to be identified. I don't know if you're aware of what those topics are. No. But it's going to be an opportunity to network a little bit with other trustees from around the state. In the afternoon, we will then have a chance to go over and watch and
the legislature in action in its Jonah building, which is only 2 blocks from where I live, so that'll be an easy place for me to get to. Then on the Governance Institute for Student Success, we do have a date, and I'm hopeful that this date will stick because the dates have been batting back and forth from April, May to eventually we finally got a date, which is June 3rd and June 4th. That's a Friday, Saturday at Casper College. And as you may recall, this institute will be an opportunity for trustees from all of the colleges, and all the colleges are buying into this. So we should have a very good attendance. We're hopeful that we'll have at least 3 or 4 trustees from each of the colleges in attendance. The process will be doing a self-assessment. We'll get an instrument that we'll complete. We'll then send it back to ACCT. ACCT will then compile the information, report back to us about our self-assessment. Then we'll have an opportunity to chat about it, ask questions, and then meet with Dr. Joe about any action plans that we will develop for our respective colleges in breakout settings. I've been pushing this one now for about a year and a half. If you recall, after the Chicago ACCT conference, where Carla Leach, the president at Western College, and I attended one of these promos, if you will, for the GISS, and we were both very interested in seeing this come to Wyoming, not at a specific college, but statewide. Any questions on those areas that I just reviewed? Additional comments? Chairman, do you have any additional comments?
No, those, I think you covered them quite well.
Then that would conclude the report on those various upcoming meetings. You want to go into the finance and facilities? Okay. Trustee Merle and I, and also Chairman Mosher, had our finance and administration meeting at January 13. We had an update on the buildings. The Flex Tech building is moving along, and hopefully they can put together a tour for all of the trustees in the April timeframe. So those of us that would like to put on a hard hat and walk around like contractors and see what's going on out there, would have a chance to do that. There are a couple of issues. One major one we're working on is how they're going to have a return duct for, I don't see if I can remember exactly what that one was. I know there's one issue with the student center is how to pump water to the building, and whether it needs pumps or whether they'll be able to do with what we already have, but that's still under investigation, as I understand it. Help me with the issue of the return duct. Could you elaborate on that one?
I was gonna say, I'm remembering it vaguely, but I think Rick probably is gonna be much better position.
Well, yeah, whomever.
Appreciate your sharing, Rick.
You're welcome, Chairman Mosher and the trustees. My recollection is there was in the design, there was some expectation, and this might start jarring your memory, Joe, that there would be a suspended ceiling, which there won't be. If there was one, there would be plenums to allow for the air to circulate, to get into the system and so forth. The fact that there isn't one now requires some ductwork to go in to accomplish moving the air around inside the building. And that's my recollection of why that's on the table.
Anyway, that particular issue is currently under investigation.
Thank you, Rick.
And thanks, Rick.
Is that the flex tech building?
That's in the flex tech building,
All
right.
thank you.
The student center, I guess the major change that you brought up earlier is the lab for, is it microbiology? Okay, microbiology lab, science labs. Okay, science labs. Originally had the desks in a configuration that would allow more students in the room. After further examination by faculty, the faculty made the case that, well, we really think this should be done differently. And would there have a different configuration of the benches, which will cost some additional dollars. And that would be a change order that you're talking about. And then I think it's appropriate to say, okay, Dr. Joe, where are we with that particular process?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Erickson, and trustees, my understanding is we've been working with the state, and that's been part of the process. Is the state ultimately construction management at A&I ultimately has to agree to move forward with pursuing these change orders. We've been working with them to let us move forward with expending the money for the planning component of that. It sounds like you think changing a table, well, you just change the table, right? Well, the tables also have plumbing and fixtures in them. They're looking at getting gas piped into each one. And so when you move a table, you're moving mechanical plans, you're moving water distribution center, plumbing, electrical and lighting. And so just the planning to determine what that would look like and then ultimately get an expense or a cost estimate for what that would take to do it is a significant step in and of itself. And that's really what we're working on now, is to get the planning done, and then we'll ultimately have to say, is there sufficient funds in the contingency pool to do that, and do we still feel comfortable with moving forward and actually making those changes? So that's really where we're at this point, and as that develops, we can bring you additional information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then another item has to do with wayfinding. The Merrill project that is moving along slowly. You notice that's a new name for it? You like that? Is that better, Trustee? Okay. So the bids are due on January 27th, and I think I heard there are 15 bidders, so we should probably get a pretty good price on that, I hope. Then we also, excuse me? Potentially. Well, that's what hope means.
That's not illegal.
No, I'll learn some. We have had a concern that came from the special meeting we had, I think on December 9, where we approved the auto paint booth. There was concern about going out for over a $30,000 project and not having it approved, and we approved it then. And so there was a further discussion as to how to prevent that from happening again. And one of the things that Rick has put together is on the procurement and contracting report. I don't know if you all have a hard copy, but you do have a copy of this in your little computer dealing. And I'm kind of like you, Bill. I like hard copies. It's just, unlike you, I like hard copies. And I like the fact that our legal counsel also has hard copies. So thank you, because you were a great backup here. I appreciate that.
And then she's sitting right next to you.
That's why I'm here.
I know.
You tried to move me. Who tried to move me? You?
I tried.
I'm not moving. So anyway, on the procurement and contract report, there is a new table that he calls potential solicitation with two items. One is the campus portal solution, then the revision of the campus master plan, which obviously we've got to have a consultant to help us with that, and that's coming forward here in the near future.
Then we reviewed the various financial statements. Everything appears to be pretty much in order. There was one, 2 or 3 questions, but one question that came up was how come the facilities rental is lower in what we are receiving today compared to historical data? And it's not down a whole bunch, but it's down. Well, I guess it's down more than just a little bit, it's down quite a bit. We're expecting a budget of $269,000 in there. And historically, by this time, we'd have about close to 70% of that money in, but currently we're, as of the end of December, about 48%. And the reason for this, and possibly, is that there's been some discouraging of events here because of concern about parking. And so it makes some sense that if you're discouraging having big events out here, you're going to have, because of difficulty parking, we're going to get less money coming in the facilities rental.
In Trustee Erickson, I think there was also some construction in there at a point in time too. So both those were issues.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Well, given that, I make a motion to approve the financial statements for the period ending December 31, 2015. And if there are any questions or comments after the second on this, we could address that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about the FNF?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add some information really fast. I'm also on a committee that's choosing the artwork for those buildings. And we have had some fascinating submissions. But we had over 250 for the Flex Tech building, I believe, and over 150 for the student center. I got my voting done. But anyway, it's been a fascinating process.
You said the 250 and the 150 submissions.
Submissions.
Okay.
So
Submissions of artwork.
Who submits artwork?
They are professional artists from all over the country. Mostly people who, what I've noticed is mostly people who have large work installations in other places that were then able to take pictures of that work and then say, I could do something similar for LCCC, both inside installations and outside installations.
Dr. Schaefer, does the state control that process? Because we're required to have a percentage for art in each building, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, by statute, these types of projects, as part of the art and public spaces, law requires us to set aside, I believe it's 1% of the overall project budget for art. The Wyoming Arts Council, do I have that correct? I was where I get confused with Art Cheyenne. The Wyoming Arts Council actually facilitates that process, and so they pulled a group of folks together, and really kind of a neat committee. That will be, I know Vice President Hay is also on that, as well as some other community members with sincere interest in the arts, and our job was to develop the call and work with the Arts Council to put the call out there. Now we're reviewing the artists to see if we can actually identify and then ultimately commission art for the two projects. I think there's a group we sort of identified that we would like, if at all possible, exterior 3D art, as well as some interior. The money will only go so far, but we thought that those would be real powerful in helping anchor the exterior spaces next to the new building. So it's been a fascinating process.
It's been fascinating.
And there are some interesting proposals or interesting submissions.
Yeah, I mean, some were easy to say no, but some were also quite magnificent and easy to say yes. So, yeah.
So, excuse me, the process then is to select a specific artist for each of the buildings, or one artist for both buildings?
we could, they're not necessarily one artist or the other. What we voted on was the work and not the artist. So an artist could have submitted like 1 to 10 pieces of work and saying, here are the ideas that I have as an artist. These are the ideas that I'm submitting. Some of them were original drawings, like I wanted to do something like this, that was a drawing. Most were saying something like, this is a piece of work that I have in, say, Colorado Springs. And I would have the same concept of work put in your building. So we were able to look at the
Sort of
work.
like checking out the qualifications. So
$150
sort of an
pieces
RFG,
of
RFQ.
Isn't it more, each of these are just pieces or concepts?
All of like the 150 or the 250 were pieces or concepts. So one artist could have submitted multiple pieces or concepts.
Trustee Merrill?
Chair Mosier. I've forgotten how much 1% would be for the Flex Tech building and for the student center. How much money do we have to spend? I know our reporter will want to know that.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill, I think I've forgotten how much it is.
Let me, I may have it in my emails here. Can I have a moment?
1% of 80 million?
Oh.
It's roughly 1% of, I want to say 14.5 million for the Flex Tech, and then 1% of roughly 129 million.
40,000.
40.
1% of the cost.
1%.
Yeah.
We had, one of the things we had to be cognizant of was, actually there were 190 submissions for student services and 273 for Flex Tech. But one of the things we had to be cognizant of was the price. Like there was one submission that was almost $1 million. Well, there, I mean, that's, no matter how beautiful it is, we don't have the money. I thought it was in here somewhere, but.
For Flex Tech, it's 63, almost 64,000.
Do we ever take student work? Or we don't do student work because we want it professionally?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill, it really is facilitated by the Arts Council. They're the ones that are actually charged with this responsibility. And so when they do a call, and we debated this, they can call for Wyoming only artists, or they can call nationwide. We said call nationwide. So nothing would prohibit a student from submitting an entry to be considered. And I don't think a lot of them do that, but I don't think anything would prohibit a student from doing it. But we didn't decide, and I don't know that it was within our purview to say we specifically want students from X to do this work.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Where is the Board of Trustees in the decision-making on the way the beautification of these buildings is going to go forward? You're saying that.
You have me.
You're there, and that's an important one. But is it the Wyoming Arts Council's final decision to decide on a specific abstract or concept, whatever it may be?
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Erickson, this is the first time that I've gone through this process. I believe that it's their responsibility. They've tried to create a committee that has multiple viewpoints that represent the different constituencies, but at least to what I understand, it will not come back to the board to say this is the artwork that we're considering for that. They're really expecting with Trustee Merrill's little participation that board perspective. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe somewhere in the process, the commission, artist and ultimately the work concept may come back to different groups for reviewing. I don't know. I've never been through
Yeah, and I think Tim McNamara is on there too. So, if you want to make sure that there's a more conservative voice than mine, unless Tim could go my direction. But
Can we have a roadmap? I'd like to follow that one.
I'm teasing you, but I'm teasing you. I think I have good taste. But yeah, I would have to look into it a little bit more. All I know is I was chosen to be on it. So
Let's look forward to you letting us know anything more about the process and selections that one of the, as you progress. I mean, really, we could ask for it, but it's not gonna be there if you guys.
I will fill you in. The first round of judging was due Friday, is due this coming Friday. I have mine done already, and then, Rachel Clifton, who is organizing all of this, is going to schedule a meeting for us to meet all in person. After, she's gonna take the projects that like we all voted yes, or, place them. This one got 5 votes, this one got 4 votes, whatever.
Right.
And then we're all gonna get together and meet.
Okay, we'll look forward to hearing how that went. Okay.
I have a way out question. Just a quick one, just very quick.
Okay.
And this is to Brenda. Would you also, for example, would this group make the final decision as to how the display of the name of the building is gonna be presented?
No.
That's not, all we're doing is picking out pieces of artwork that will go either in the building or on the outside of the building. Nothing about the naming or nothing like that.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe, Vicky, correct me, but I think we have a motion on the floor that has not been voted on.
It's not.
Okay. We do have a motion. Is there any more discussion on the motion to approve the financial reports? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Finally, we get a chance to hear from Butch.
And Noah.
Well, we don't.
The wind blew you in hours ago.
Can you go home?
Yes, it's 1. Mr. Chairman, the LA County campus, I understand, is not even in session yet, so not a lot to report on. Dr. Malm, who is got a South America look on.
That's what that
Who
is.
came from South America climbing the largest mountain, second largest mountain? Yeah, number 2. And he tells me that that classes will not start until February 1st. And we're gonna follow a 14-week, kind of a little bit more of a tighter condenser schedule or block. And part of the reason is that the University of Wyoming is not in session yet. They don't start until next Monday. And so hopefully the plan is that we'll have hopefully about 2 weeks, that orientation period to get university students that cannot find what they need to find there, or whatever, and get them set up and enrolled on the Albany County campus on the 1st. And probably as much as maybe 75% of our enrollment will happen at that period of time. Under that 14, so really trying to line up with what's going on in QW. And like you said, the town is really quiet. Nobody's back yet. It's amazing to me how it seems like forever when fall semester ended, and now, next Monday they'll get back in the program. So, but that's kind of the report of so far the Albany County campus. I just want to share that I thought the recruitment and the admission process works program we had at our dinner hour was great. Just stuff like, I like sales and marketing stuff. And what we're doing in that area is good stuff. It's so gratifying to hear how we can take an ag program of 17 and grow it to 40 by really getting involved and passionate and doing all the right things that we need to touch and put our fingers on. So that was good stuff. That's the college's, so for whatever it's worth, I like this.
Appreciate that. Any other comments for Butch? Noah, now we got a chance to hear from you. Yeah, the dual role.
Yeah. So I just have a couple of things to talk about, and that is that we have 2 open positions at the start of this semester, and so applications for this is for SGA, I'm sorry. Those applications will be open for these next 2 weeks, and then interviews will be the 3rd week from that. And that also, SVAC starts soon, and we're entertaining the idea of getting a smaller committee from SGA to go through all that, then just maybe we'll set a block time and getting them all done, and then reporting back to the rest of SGA because it tends to eat up a lot of time within our meetings. So we can get more things done this semester opposed to previous spring semesters.
Mr. Chairman, what,
Trustee Lowe?
what the last acronym you used, what is that?
SBAC,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it.
Student fee allocation committee.
Oh, student fee allocation, thank you.
Trustee Merrill?
Thank you very much. Noah, I've already given you my thank you note, but I want to thank you again from the entire board for our beautiful jackets for Christmas. Because I know that everybody loves them.
And I want to give you a special kudos because a lot of times I seem to have outgrown mine before I get them. This one fits. Thank you. Thumbs up.
It's the first time I have ever gotten a gift as a trustee from SGA.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
The way it was done was very nice. Very much appreciated. Okay, any other things for Noah?
I don't know if this is appropriate.
Trustee Merrill?
You said something at our last meeting about your disappointment in the math, how the math was going with not much personal touch and from the math, maybe.
The like online program or like.
Yes, and that are
online.
you gonna pursue that as SGA to try to rectify it?
I do believe so.
Okay.
President Schaefer got back to us with a letter addressing all those things that we sent to him in that memo. And I believe we're gonna go through that actually tomorrow, I think, in our meeting, through his letter and then address him back.
Thank you, thank you, appreciate it. We wanna stay on top of these things.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, Trustee Merrill, that's a good point, as part of your earlier conversation about getting an update on the changes to developmental English and mathematics. I mean, that's part of this conversation, and so that will also help fill in some of the gaps that you may have in your awareness and see how that's rolling out. But it'll be great to hear Noah's, reply and thoughts on that as we start to dig in and see what we can do as an institution to help students.
Okay. Appreciate the fact that that's moving forward and action being taken. Thank you for replying to it, Dr. Schaefer. New business. I just have one item here that Dr. Schaefer and I visited a little bit early in the year end, or I guess it was really late in the year. It was just before Christmas. We had a chance to get together and visit a little bit. One of the things that was shared, he and I talked a little bit about was an emeritus classification. This college does not have that. Many do, both community colleges and four-year schools. And it's not just, it could be, but it's not just typically for faculty or administration. It can be included for everyone. In fact, I also looked at the possibility for board, and you might say, why do we care about it? It's a way of recognizing people for service, recognizing them not just for, in most of them, I've noticed they typically talk 10 or 15 years of service, but, and not just that you put in 10 or 15 years, but that you, in fact, meet qualification. What's the cost? Typically very little, if anything, because it's like access to the library, it's like access to certain meetings, you might get information and stuff. So it's really kind of a nice privilege and very nice recognition for folks. So I will share with you, I'll send out to you some links that will take you to various policies from different schools on emeritus. And this is just a talking stage. At some point, I think what I'll do, and any of you who are interested, let me know. I think we'll kind of put together an ad hoc committee and pursue, if you wish, how we might go about doing that. And again, it's not a cost, generally speaking, of any significance to the college, but it is a benefit. And it's, like I said, a way of recognizing people. So look forward to receiving that email from it. Okay. Any top of your head comments on it now?
Why not? I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Good. I have no other new business for you. Anyone else have any?
Yes, I do.
Trustee
Chairman.
DuBois.
You know, Mrs. Trustee Merrill mentioned thanking the SGA for the jackets, but I would like to publicly in the meeting thank Dr. Schaefer and Mrs. Schaefer for the very fine party that they gave us and the trolley ride and see the lights and all that. And I would like to make comment here in front of everybody that it was a great evening.
One of the things that made it great was we were fortunate to have Barker's children, Trustee Barker and President Schaefer's children, who provided Christmas carols, and it was just really put a touch on the evening. I loved it. So thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, Trustee DuBois. Next meetings, we've got our next meeting on February 3rd, and then I do hope you're looking carefully at the 17th and the 18th, those dates as brought up by Trustee Erickson regarding not only our meetings, but the Community College Commission meetings and the trustees statewide meetings. So look at those dates carefully, and then public comment. Any at this time we would take? No public comment.
One of the public was in Cuba.
Indeed.
Yes, we're glad to have you back, safe and sound. I don't know, the exciting accounting materials probably would have gotten lost, and Rick would have to design a new budget or something with more pictures.
Learned a lot about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, we'll have a chance to have a cup of coffee or something and visit with you one of these days. Okay, we're
Are
ready.
you ready to close the session, sir?
Yeah, Trustee Merrill, are we ready?
I will.
Oh,
I move that we close the regular session and move into an executive session to consider an issue relative to real estate, maybe the acquisition of some real estate. And we would also request that Jim and Butch and Rick join us in that meeting. I make that motion.
and we don't need a second, as I remember.
We do.
We do?
I'll second that motion.
We have a second.
And you need to vote. And we need to vote.
Boy, you're making us do everything.
That's what we pay you.
All those in favor
Before the
of,
vote.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Yes. Chairman, would it be possible, Madam Lawyer, to also discuss a personnel matter at that meeting? I'm announcing it now because I need to know in advance.
we need to amend the motion.
We need to amend the motion.
I'll friendly amendment, we'll include that in the motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Amend the motion.
So, motion as it now stands is to adjourn to an executive session to discuss real estate and a personnel matter. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll come back to order at 25 till.
I got it.